This video shows how to do a mid-span repair of pixel strip. So we're going to go ahead and plug up this strip, and we're going to see that there's a problem with one of these pixels right here. Now, in this particular case, this is 3010 pixel strips, so the pixels are roughly about 4 inches. There is a splice connection or cut connection at each side of the pixel. It's copper, and there'll be copper wires with a line between them. And this is the pixel we need to remove and then put the pieces back together. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to cut on each side, first by removing the power. And I'm just going to make a nice clean cut right in the middle there, isolating the individual pixel that is a problem. All right. Now, I have my two halves. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a little bit of this shrink wrap, this silicone tube, silicone tube, and I'm going to move it on both sides here. This just gives me a good solder area. You're going to see that we're going to use some 1/2-inch silicone shrink wrap to be able to put these back together. Now, the first thing we need to do, though, is we need to get some solder onto these bare copper wires. This is a process called tinning. So we're simply going to take my solder here and my soldering iron, and we're simply just going to put some solder. Nothing complicated about it. Don't have to be real precise. We do want to make sure that the solder is not touching. Like in this particular case, we have 3 connections, so we don't want any solder touching one another. They should be independently soldered on each pad. You can see I'm just running across that. The solder will automatically want to stick right onto the pads. So now we have a solder on there. And we're going to make sure that we're maintaining our same direction. And what we're going to do is first put on some shrink wrap. This is, again, 1/2-inch shrink wrap. We need to put it on before we start. All right, doesn't matter which side. And we're simply going to just slide that on there. Let's grab this so we can pull it through. Pull it down about 1 inch or 2 so that the heat, when you're soldering it, does not cause a problem. And I'm going to go ahead and just use a helping hands here so you can better see what I'm doing. And I'm going to take my soldering iron here. And I'm simply just going to lay those on top of each other and heat them up by turning the soldering iron sideways and just putting a little bit of heat on there, and they'll just suck right together. We'll just check the back to make sure that there's no spillover from one pad to another. It looks good. We're just going to give it a quick check before we waterproof it to make sure our connection was good. And you can see that our our electrical connection is good. It's nice and tight, not loose. So we're going to go ahead, remove that so it's not powered up. I'm just simply going to take some number 189 silicone glue. We're just going to put a little bit of glue in there, trying to get some inside, put some on the back side. It can get a little messy, but it'll be okay. Now I'm going to take this shrink wrap and simply just push it down. If some of the silicone comes out the side, that's perfectly okay. You'll just wipe it down after you're done. And I'm simply going to slide this down till I'm in the midpoint and simply put some heat on that, get it to shrink up. And we're done. Now, normally, of course, we have a little bit of silicone there. We'll remove that with a cloth, but we have a good waterproof connection. We'll do one more check here. Make sure it's all still okay. And you can see it's fine. And the clear shrink wrap allows the light to go through with no problems at all while still maintaining a waterproof connection. And that's how you create a mid-span splice.